as we go. But I know a lot of people were on the call last week, but I know a few people are new, so I just wanted to hit a couple high points of what I covered last week. Especially just want to thank all of our staff who've had to pick up a lot of extra tasks and responsibilities over the last the last 2 months. It's hard to believe this is a 2-month process now, but it is, and there's no end in sight. So it's definitely fun times for everybody, both at work and at home. But I know a lot of people have volunteered to do different things. I know just recently one of our trainees, our apprentices, Lindsay Mann, is volunteered to learn how to be a cremation, or she had her cremator operator's certificate, but went ahead and actually got trained on how to do cremations, and it's really picked up some extra work and helped us to kind of catch up with things. Obviously, April for us was a busier month than normal, not something that was something we can't handle, but it was definitely busier than a normal April. And with a lot of families choosing cremation, definitely it's posed some challenges just getting caught up, and especially issues like with the care center for things backing up. So those things are a huge help to us being able to process stuff faster. Also, I've got to give a special thanks to the transfer team, the care center, kind of all of our frontline staff. It's a lot of odd situations and a lot of extra work, especially cleaning, disinfecting, making sure that we're being safe and smart, especially at a hospital, or with the remains that comes into the care center that already has COVID-19, just making sure we're taking proper precautions and being smart about everything. It's definitely for all of us out there in the world, it's a challenge right now, but especially when you're on the front lines and having to deal with this. And the challenge is not just at work, but also personally that it gives to you. Everybody's just done such a great job. I would say right now we've probably served around 35 to 40 families who have died of COVID. It's kind of hard to have an exact number because we don't always know until after the fact, or even then we may not know. But that's kind of the best guess we have. As I said, April was definitely busier than normal, but compared to other funeral homes in different parts of the country, especially the Northeast, we're actually doing pretty well. I have a couple of funeral director friends of mine up in the Northeast, and they generally serve about 120 to 30 families. And I know in April they served 450, totally overrun and just a whole mess of a situation. I know one of the funeral homes that's in New York, just outside of New York City, they were sending remains down to Lancaster, Pennsylvania to be cremated. There's just no option of getting those done anywhere near New York. So, count our blessings that at least in Virginia, things have been manageable and it hasn't been too crazy for us. With that being said, there's no, hopefully things seem to be on the, slowing down side. Our volume for May so far has been pretty average to slow. So hopefully we're starting to see that kind of translate, with COVID deaths as well. Kind of general questions I know that people have asked. Kind of the big one is, when are things going to get back to normal? Obviously, with Governor Northam's statement last week, or his reopening of Virginia, of the phasing of things, we have gotten notification that we are going to be kind of treated in the same tone as religious organizations, as churches, etc. So we are going to be able to offer ceremonial options to families. With that being said, though, there are some limitations on what we can do, and there's certainly a lot of guidelines that we have to really adhere to be able to do that. So I know the management team has been working very hard on trying to deal with all these kind of questions and things that are set out by the governor's office on what we can do to make that happen. Things especially like cleanliness, how we're going to kind of what we can offer, how we're going to offer it, the timing of things, because we have to make sure that we allow plenty of time for, disinfecting, both the location, the facilities like bathrooms, really trying to have a way that we kind of really keep this under control. I really still see us, pretty much all the service offerings we're going to have are still going to be privately done, because we need to be able to control the amount of people that come into the location and how that's done. I think as you may have read, the governor's phase one approach for religious organizations is 50% kind of capacity or minimum capacity. I've never seen anywhere minimum capacity listed, where it's always maximum capacity. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but I think we kind of feel like we can probably make or kind of look to kind of put in place like a 40 to 50 person kind of max on kind of what we can handle. That gives us plenty of opportunity to spread things out within the locations. Obviously with seating, it's important that things be 6 feet apart, but letting families sit together, that creates some challenges in and of itself. So I think, this right now is very much kind of a work in progress. The big challenge though is this is kind of specifically for ceremonies, not for visitations. So the visitation side of things still has to be in that 10 person minimum. So it's kind of a unique kind of trying to toe the line on kind of what is allowed and what isn't. So I know, as we go through the next couple of weeks, it's going to definitely be interesting to see how this works out. I will say the other challenge to us too is how this is implemented. We can control what happens at Wiley's. What we can't control is what happens at other locations. So, for instance, a church that has capacity for 500 people may say, oh, we're totally fine with 250 people coming to a funeral. I would probably not suggest that, but I can't control what they allow in their building. At the same time, there may be plenty of churches out there that say, I know what the governor says, but we're not opening until this is all over with. I can't change what happens there either. So we're really going to work to be smart, really try to protect our staff. I really do worry, especially going out, to locations like a church that's inside, making sure our staff is prepared with masks and personal protective equipment to protect them, and being smart about what is done. We should never have to jeopardize our safety when it comes to those things. And I think what we're going to see, at least what happened on the front end, is I don't think people are going to be coming out. I think you'll have family and extended family and maybe a few close friends. But people, I don't think, are going to be jumping to go get into a church with hundreds of other people, even at social distancing things. So, and the continued use certainly of live streaming and things like that, has been a big help and a way to still engage people, and also unique ways like having people to sit in their cars and drive by, at a cemetery. There's all kinds of ways we can try to engage this, but I think it's going to be a real challenge to see how societally, how we get back to implementing these things. I know other questions that are kind of out there is like specifically with our part-time staff, how part-time staff kind of when, where, what, how, everybody's going to be kind of re-engaged on those levels. And I think the biggest challenge right now for us is the business we had before things shut down back in March is totally different from the business that we're allowed to have today. And that very much, kind of holds our hands as far as how we utilize staff. So in particularly with, part-time staff before, back in March or before, we were doing visitations at night. We're having large ceremonies where we'd have many staff members helping out. We were having receptions and all these types of things. And obviously the ceremony side of things, should be changing a little bit, and that will certainly change how we and bring more staff on, especially staff that wants to work. At the same time, things like nighttime visitations and receptions, there's no idea as far as when those things are going to be allowed again. And even then, how families are going to respond, even when given the option to that. So I think that's the one thing for us that's a challenge right now. We have been, originally staffed and, organized to be able to provide all these things. And right now we can't. So I think those are some of the biggest challenges, for us. Also, but at the same time, we have been utilizing, part-time staff more and more. I know the last few weeks, as different full-time staff members have been out on vacation or personal leave, and kind of mandating that through April and May for all full-time staff, we've had part-time staff that we are engaging and working. And we'll be doing more of that, especially as we start kind of moving into this phase one approach. I will say that, for us, we have to be financially smart about this. Our revenues for the, since this is started, I don't have an exact number yet, but obviously expect our revenue to probably be down about 30% of what it traditionally would be. So we have to be very aware of how we, not just staff things, but all of our expenses that we have. We have to be very aware and responsible to everyone here that we, manage things as best we can to make sure that we're going to be around for the long term. We have been very fortunate that we have, good financial strength and health. But obviously there's a lot of things right now that are uncertain, not just for us, but for everybody. And I think it's important that we be, smart in how we do things from that perspective. So I think, with that being said, there's just a lot of kind of uncertainties with things and where things are going. Finally, the one question is just that was out there is, do we see kind of a big change of, things over from more service offerings to more limited service offerings, and specifically, a lot more cremations. I will say that we've had a jump in cremations since this has started. I want to say probably about a 5% increase in cremations. And certainly the limited service offerings, I actually don't think is necessarily something that will be a long-term effect. Obviously in the short term it has, because families just aren't given the opportunities they have. But I do think if there's one thing I think that this may create some better awareness for, is the value of ceremony and ritual. And for families that haven't been able to do it, you really do feel sorry for them that they're not able to engage people like they would like to. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I will say one thing that's been really good, and I know all of our, Chippenham and cremation center staff has done an amazing job of really dealing with a lot of cremation witnesses or families being present for the cremation and rituals that come around that. I think it's very important for us to be able to offer that to families, to give them a way to really ritualize things right now, because they are not able to do that. And it seems like we're having at least 1 or 2 cremation witnesses a day. Obviously that causes a lot of strain on the cremation center staff and keeping things going. But it's really a hallmark of what we can provide to families in the area. No one else really does that, but the families walk away so grateful that they were able to come and be a part of the process. Last week had a family I waited on that came to be present for the cremation, and you can just see how important it was for them to to be a part of that ritual and to be able to have something, because they want to do a memorial service at a later date, but there's no idea when that's going to be. So it's important for them to be a part of the process. So with that being said, that kind of covers